Good evening and welcome to the December 2nd, 2019 meeting of the Reston Community Center Board of Governors. First order of business is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Next order of business is approval of the November 4th board minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved in second. Next is the approval of the, all those in favor?
Move second vote.
Next order of business is approval of the November 4th board actions.
So moved.
Second.
All those, it's been moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Next order of business is the chair's remarks, and I hope you all had a happy Thanksgiving and family celebrations. When we meet here again, it will be the new year, 2020. Amazing. I think about that. My mother was born in 1920.
Wow.
So I am wishing you all a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa and or Festivus. Whatever you are celebrating, may it be with people you love, and may you have a new year filled with joy, peace, understanding, and love. And this is a repeat for you. It's called What Will Matter. Ready or not, someday it will all come to an end. There will be no more sunrises, no minutes, hours, or days. All the things you collected, whether treasured or forgotten, will pass to someone else. Your wealth, fame, and temporal power will shrivel to irrelevance. It will not matter what you owned or what you were owed. Your grudges, resentments, frustrations, and jealousies will finally disappear. So too your hopes, ambitions, plans, and to-do lists will expire. The wins and losses that once seemed so important will fade away. It won't matter where you came from or what side of the tracks you lived on at the end. It won't matter whether you were brilliant or beautiful. Even your gender and skin color will be irrelevant. So what will matter? How will the value of your days be measured? What will matter is not what you bought, but what you built. Not what you got, but what you gave. What will matter is not your success, but your significance. What will matter is not what you learned, but what you taught. What will matter is every act of integrity, compassion, courage, or sacrifice that enriched, empowered, or encouraged others to emulate your example. What will matter is not your competence, but your character. What will matter is not how many people you knew, but how many will feel the lasting loss when you're gone. What will matter is not your memories, but the memories that live in those who loved you. What will matter is how long you will be remembered by whom and for what. Living a life that matters doesn't happen by accident. It's not a matter of circumstances, but of choice. Choose to live a life that matters. That's for the closing of the year. Next order of business is the introduction of visitors. And so there are no visitors, so there's no citizen input. Next order of business is the committee reports, and it's the 2019 orientation report.
I think we were all there.
I think we were all there, and we remember all the words that were said. It was a good ending for Kathy.
Yeah.
Good last week.
Motion to approve your report.
It's been moved and
As written.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Next order of business is the board member input on activities attended since last we met, starting with Mr.
Let's see. At the orientation meeting with Kathy Hudgens. Gonna miss her. She was a good friend for RCC for a long time, and she continues to use the facilities going forward. Dance the Havik Nagila. It's the Jewish Film Festival. Lots of fun. And, I do have 2 left feet, but other than that, it was fascinating. Our friends invited us, part of the film festival. They go to almost the entire film festival. And they said of all the other performances in Fairfax, namely at Angelica, a couple other places, RCC put on the best performance. Because the film was outstanding. The history of the music, of the theme, and going way, way back, and a lot of humor, and it was very well done. But then the community meeting, fun session afterward was just extraordinary. And we're so pleased that it reflected well so nicely on RCC. So it was nice to see. That's about it.
I went to the Christmas tree lighting and caroling in Reston Town Center, and of course the meeting with Kathy Hudgens was a pleasure.
See, I voted here. I recognize that early voting is a concept, but I like doing it. I know it takes a little more time, but it's a community thing for me. Probably very uplifting on RCC. Lakes was down by 2 touchdowns going to the 4th quarter and came back to beat Chantilly. So it was a very impressive first round of the playoffs win, which earned them the privilege of getting their
Bottoms?
okay.
Tailback.
Again, finishing their season at Westfields. And it was
3 years in a row. Isn't it?
yeah, at least. Maybe 3 out of the past 4. Let's see, obviously orientation, the Y Gala was a lot of fun. The holiday parade, which was really good despite the absence of the Bolivian dancers. It was still, despite that, it was still very good. Very good. And the torch has been passed for my son, who was in it for 4 years. Now my daughter has done her first of what we expect to be 4 years in the parade. And then saw the Plasmatics yesterday evening, and they were a lot of fun. I really enjoyed them.
Great music.
Lots of meetings, lots and lots of meetings. We had a chance to honor our park volunteers last Friday, who donated over 250,000 hours last year to parks. That was an offset of over $4 million to the bottom line. That's real participation. We also had a chance to honor the outgoing members of the Board of Supervisors in a big way in front of a big crowd, so that was kind of cool. Our own Kathy Hudgens. And we were also able to recognize John and Fran Lovis and the Reston Farmers Market for being the best farmers market in the state. And so it was all good, and looking forward to honoring Kathy on Wednesday, and want to say a public thank you for everything she's done for our community, and hopefully she'll be a part of our lives for many years to come. So that's it.
I attended the orientation, and it was nice to have Kathy there, and I think she'll stay involved, but at her own pace in the way she'd like to. And what a treasure. We were very fortunate to have her be a member of the community. I also attended the Y Gala, the great date that night. It was much smaller this year, but we were there. It was a nice event. And then I've been traveling, so I love the parade, and I didn't get to go to the parade this year. I love it. I call them VIP seats. I feel like I'm in the front row of Macy's when our parade's better. So I feel bummed when I miss it, so I'm sure it was great.
Attended the orientation session. I echo what everybody said about Kathy's contribution to the community and her long-term service. I hope that she isn't a stranger to any organization in the future. I attended the Nature House 10-year anniversary, which 10 years, it doesn't seem like it was 10 years ago, but it was a nice event. And glad to see that it's going, and well, I attended the parade and got to see my granddaughter, the Brownie Troop, march down the street. Yelling at her. Sit down. Anyway, but it was fun. That's it.
Like everybody, I attended the orientation. It was really a good meeting. I enjoyed it. I thought it was well done. And of course, Kathy is something we all have lived to enjoy what she has done. And it'll be very interesting to see what the changes that won't be doing. I went to the Wild Gallery with Marion Gala, and we both enjoyed it very much. And
Did you wear your tux or a suit?
I wore my tux.
Good for you.
Oh, right.
And I think I saw 2 other tuxes. I enjoy wearing a tux. But anyway, that was great. And pretty much the rest of the month we were traveling. We went down to Tampa. Well, first Orlando and then Tampa. And then we inched our way back over the last couple of days. You think I-81 was bad? I-95 in the south coming back. Yeah. But anyway, it was still worth it. So that's what it was.
So in addition to the meeting with Kathy, which I also thought was a very good one, and a P&Z meeting, which was not so exciting, I did see Agaz Nafasi, I think that's the way you pronounce it, reading the lead in Tehran, who was here speaking. Went to the parade and saw the Klezmatics, and I will say it reaffirmed how much I love klezmer music, but how my love for it lasts about 3 songs. So in short doses, it's fantastic. By the way, just for humorously, I was at the Barnes Wolf Trap in the afternoon. So I saw the Goldberg variations performed in the afternoon and the Klezmatics about 2 hours later. Quite a contrast.
That's a pretty broad range.
Yeah.
I also, since I wrote the report, was at the board orientation. It was a really fine meeting. We had, Esme took classes in hip hop, and there was a hip hop recital. It was fantastic. There were 2 6-year-olds and 2 3-year-olds. 1 3-year-old just stood the entire time. She did nothing. And Esme did her favorite moves. Wow, it was great. I went to the Y Gala, the Ethics Day that we helped sponsor with the TRCC, gave remarks for that. The UCP every year has a Thanksgiving interfaith service, and we had, Kathy was there, and Walter Conklin and Kim were there. And that's always a wonderful evening when people from all faiths come to that. And it always starts with the beloved yoga. She does a piece and does a mantra, and everything gets you in the spirit for the place, for the event. The cornerstones, the food boxing for Thanksgiving, on Thanksgiving morning. A total shout out to Kevin Danaher, who has that thing. It was like 22 minutes this year. They were all boxed and ready to go. It was amazing.
Several tons of food.
I remember in the old days, it took us 3 hours and we still weren't finished. It's just amazing. And the parade and then the Klezmatics. Next order of business is the executive director's report.
So we are in the process of finalizing finalizing our CAFRA narrative draft that we will be presenting to the County Park Authority Red Team for their review in December. I've gotten the first, the set of appendices, data tables, and the first draft of the survey report, and have reviewed it for typos and anything that seems out of kilter and sent it back. They will fix those, and we will have it for our discussion on Saturday of the retreat strategic planning meetings in January. And we have the option of their returning to discuss the survey report, and they can either return in January for that conversation, or they could make themselves available to make a presentation about the survey results to that February engagement session, which I think would be more meaningful. I think if we have the conversation around the report in January among ourselves, and then I can compile all of that feedback and input and get it back to them, and then that could be incorporated into a report to the community at the front end of that meeting. So
Will you be able to distribute that to us before January 3rd?
yes,
So that we can read it?
they will have the next iteration of it back to me by the 20th of December, and that will give you a couple of weeks to read it and to look at it. The summary will be roughly 30 or so pages, but the appendices, as you can imagine, will be extensive. The open ends are the most page consuming, and there's like 160 pages of appendices, but most of those open ends, you can tell pretty quickly what the gist of the input and feedback is. So most of the salient information will run about 50, 60 pages in terms of the data tables and the 30-page summary. So if that's okay, I'll let them know to be present for the February meeting, and we'll use the conversation in January. Karen Cleveland will be facilitating that session, so we'll use that conversation to give them further input to the final report. The films are going up as planned. We're nearing 500 views on the YouTube channel, which is very exciting. We have a couple more to go up in December, and that's proven to be, the Players film in particular generated more than 300 views, so that was a good kickoff for the channel. We're doing robust business in our facility rentals line of business. Our winter-spring registration period kicked off yesterday, and you can see the totals for the first day. We're a little ahead of where we were the first day last year, but of course last year we didn't have a whole lot of aquatics programming to offer, so I would hope we would be ahead of where we were last year. We are hiring lifeguards and instructors. We're still hoping for the late December soft opening. You've all mentioned some of the program highlights in arts and events. A key one, we had the entire South Lakes High School Choral Arts Pyramid here for a day of workshops with their faculty, and that addressed 250 students and some 40 faculty members, so that was a great service event for that community. Our fitness and wellness programming has begun extending into the breaks between sessions on the basis of patron demand, and that's showing up in the participation numbers as a positive. We had an outreach event at the Y, and we are probably going to continue to do that. We got good feedback from the people who appreciated having something in that part of the community, and we'll see how we can proceed with that effort.
I'm sorry, could you describe that outreach event a little
It
more?
was a holiday wreath making workshop, and so we'll be doing workshops, we'll be doing some art classes, we'll be working on content for different age cohorts there, and they sought us and said they really hope that we could help them activate, you know, they have all that new space from their renovation, and they want to put it to good use, so I think that would be a very positive partnership. And then I go to a lot of meetings and attended. We host every November the Chamber of Commerce newcomers new membership breakfast, and we did that again this November, and they were very appreciative of that. So that was a good collaboration with them. Switching to the aquatics renovation report. Well, the good news is the artwork's up. Somebody finished their work on time. So, but they are making it, steady and certain progress. We have a progress meeting scheduled for Thursday. I'm not feeling, everybody can see it for themselves. It does not feel like we are 2 weeks away from people getting into the water. So I'll know more on Thursday. They are, from what I can tell based on the daily updates, they are running anywhere from a week to 10 days behind their own calendar. So we'll see how much they can make up. I did watch my Nest camera relentlessly over Thanksgiving, and they did work over the holiday weekend, so they are hard at work. And
Is that more exciting than the NFL?
a lot more. It's also more suspense in many ways. Have a lot more at stake. And again, on the good news front, the budget, we're in terrific shape with respect to the budget. It has enabled us to make some really substantial improvements in the locker rooms. We'll probably do some more in the locker rooms over the August maintenance period, but the floor has been completely replaced, the lockers have been completely replaced. There are now shower partitions and stall units for the men's locker room. That was a big thing that, if you remember way back to 2 years ago, the engagement that men suggested that they would like a little more privacy, and so they will have it. And, well, that's a good thing. True confessions. So there are lots of good things to come. We've been working very carefully with the South Lakes High School swim team. They are trying to work through all the FCPS bureaucracy to put a private rental agreement into effect. There's a pool at King Abdullah Academy in Herndon that they can use for their practices, and as a goodwill gesture, we are helping support the lifeguarding for those practice sessions. If the school system will hurry up and sign off on the contract so they can get in there. And then hopefully by the end of December, they'll be back here in their home pool. And these are just some pictures of the installation that was going on yesterday. And tonight, when we finish, you can see the artwork is up. They still have to come back and do you can't see from the overlook, but of course, wherever they were riveting the pieces into the wall, they will have to come back in and put in the mosaics that are missing in the sections and the lines. So. But
By the way,
we
I was
continue
glad
to
to
make
see
progress.
the support of the South Lakes team's sort of relocation. That feels like I know it's just in my head, but I feel like the money that we're sort of not having to pay, that we're getting credited, if you will, because it's late,
Yeah.
helps to compensate South Lakes, who are
Right.
really having to be put out
Yeah.
as well.
Right.
So I like that.
Right. So that's where we are.
So, thank you very much.
Annual meeting.
Yeah, it's January 3rd and 4th, Friday
Down at
afternoon,
the-
down at the bottom of
So
your
it's at
agenda.
Lake Ann.
It's at
It's at
RCC
Lake
Lake Ann. We'll be able to leave our things overnight, and the room will be locked overnight, so you don't have to worry about packing up stuff. We will make sure that there is comfortable seating and full audio-visual complement of equipment, and Karen will facilitate again as she has in the past. And we will create, in addition to the survey material to provide for you, we'll do the data on the year 2019 and the strategic plan update on Friday afternoon, so all that material will be available to you ahead of the meeting as well.
Okay. Any other new business?
Yes, please. I'd like to bring up a point. I was rather disturbed by this letter that the person sent that you passed around to all of us from Virginia.
Busby?
Yeah. Let's see, Lila's reply was November 18th, and the letter was November 18th. You replied immediately, which frankly I think is appropriate because I thought the letter was rather disturbing. And I think you didn't catch one of her major complaints, which really wasn't about location of programs, but age distribution of our programs. She complained really that there wasn't enough for high school kids, ages 14 through 17. And so I decided to go through the latest guide to see, whether there was anything to that. And there was. In fact, it seemed to me rather disturbing. Of all the programs listed in the guide, there were 61 that I counted that were for ages 1 to 12. There were only 30 from ages 13 to 17. And there were 166 that were restricted to 18 plus. That did not seem to me to be a reasonable balance. Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt. I want to respond, but I don't want to interrupt.
Well, the thing is that a lot of the programs that I saw in the guide that were restricted to 18 plus, the smaller program, we have a huge program for kids, and that's great. We have a pretty good program for seniors, and that's great too. But there were programs in discussion and enrichment, for instance. 33 of them were restricted to 18 plus. That makes no sense to me. High school kids can talk about serious things and really be good. Dance, for instance. 4 programs for over 18 and none for 1 through 17. Yoga. 36 programs in yoga and cardio strength for over 18. High school kids can do that.
So, Dick, we have offered some of those programs for teens in the past, but teens are phenomenally programmed in terms of their after school and their leisure time pursuits. So we have had much greater success in serving teens in the schools directly, and that's why we have the full week extensive after school program at Langston Hughes Middle School that serves over 500 visits annually, and why we take artist residency activities and workshops and programs directly to the high school, and we have taken them also to Herndon High School so that we're equitable between both South Lakes and Herndon High School.
That's good.
Well, actually, and my response is, so I expect that. Part of it is about when we think about each of those age ranges and think about how much sort of extracurricular effort is provided by their primary location, right? So when you're in K through 6, the elementary schools, frankly, they're open from 9 until 3, and then they're shut down. Like the number of kids who stay late at elementary school is small. Middle school, you have a few more, but it's not that much. Go up to adults, work, you're there 9 to 5, done. Those high school kids, that school is open all the darn time, all the time. And because I have to go there a lot, right? So I'm in that school a lot, and I rarely have to open it because it's already open all the time. And so my point is that I think a part of the reason that in the past there's been a challenge getting more enrollment in St. Joe High School is because the high school provides so much and massively more than the elementary school and significantly more than the middle school. And then I think that when you get into the adult ranges, it's really lacking. Now, all that said, the idea of maybe identifying a couple things, maybe a couple discussions that can go down to age 16 or something, I'm not going to argue that you might be able to find a few. I'm just saying that the idea that it goes from 100 plus to 30 does not surprise me in the least, as someone who has an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old.
Yeah, it might be quite true that high school kids have a lot of other activities, and certainly they do. But I see no reason for restricting
Well,
so many of our
let me
programs
just
to
say,
18
we
plus.
can drop the age down, but the problem is that those programs are offered during the daytime, and the primary audience is retired adults, and so the kids, the teenagers are not attending those. What
And
they-
those adults are asleep by then.
Right. Right.
Okay,
And you've also.
fine, that just means that they won't come.
Okay.
But I see no reason from restricting them to say in our program guide, the 90% of the programs are for 18.
For the optics
for
of
over 18.
Yeah.
So I think,
It just made no sense. to me.
and I think this has been an issue that's come up before. People talked about it, thought about it. And it is hard to get teenagers to come to these things. I think, and a lot of it is daytime stuff. But on the other hand, I think you're right. I think I agree with you that to the extent you can expand the range and at least make the offer there to 16-year-olds for the yoga classes in the evening if they want to do it. and that
Believe
sort of
me,
thing.
we have run and tested and tried, and it is impossible to attract enrollment. Now, that's not to say we can't keep making the attempt or try again. And then in terms of just to be clear about there's a background to the way that the software and the data tracking from year to year to year, the more you keep shifting and changing the age cohorts on your offerings, the harder it is to make valid comparisons across those age cohorts from one offering session to another. So yes, from a cosmetic perspective, we can drop the age down, we can make it 12 and older. It won't change the participation. And I think it's more meaningful if we really are focused on serving teens to find out how to address them where they are,
Right.
meet them where they are, and provide the content.
Yeah, and I was gonna say-
Their preference will not be
To be in a
No.
class with
No.
They don't want to
No,
be
you
there.
got, I mean,
I'm sorry.
But I do wonder,
not-
I mean, I understand, but I wonder whether yoga is an area where teens may be underserved. The
Yeah.
interest in yoga has grown so much.
It's about to be an
Overall,
offering at South Lakes High School next year, by the way.
Right.
I mean,
Sure.
And
No,
so,
I'm
you know,
saying that itch is about to be scratched by South Lakes High School.
No, but-
Oh, it's about
But
to
you
be
got-
scratched?
No, but
Okay.
I think that point's well taken. I don't disagree that we should look at this, and as the chairman of the committee, I will take that on. However, I just, knowing teens and having worked with teens for years, it's a really difficult group to.
It is.
It is.
To
It
But
is.
test.
And
finding a
you've
place
got-
to do a yoga that is
and
maybe
you've got-
centric is so
And-
challenging.
And you've got two other centers. I mean, you've got Southgate, you've got the Teen Center, and the biggest problems that you've got from age 12 to age 18 are parental involvement, where you see an 80% drop off after 12 in any activity not engaged with school. And the second one is transportation, getting them there and getting them back. So That just happens to be
Yeah,
a gap
I think that's
that
why
we've
it's so
watched for a lot of
important to
years.
serve them where they are,
Right.
as opposed to trying to
To go-
create some.
Have
So
them
I
come-
guess- I
But
guess-
the idea is to serve them and put it in the guide. So because this book is the primary book. This is where people say. this is
Well,
what
we
the democracy
do,
should be.
in fact, Dick, put in there that if your child attends Langston Hughes Middle School to check the after-school programming, we can certainly document that, and we do in the annual report. But if we offer a program in the school, that has to be a collaborative partnership arrangement. We can't necessarily advertise it and open it to the non-school community.
Oh, no.
So, I think there's a place for documenting our service to teens, which is in the annual
Yeah, I certainly
report,
think that should
but
be.
not necessarily saying in the guide that,
I think what the RCC does with the schools is the most important thing. Totally agree with that. On the other hand, to the extent art classes or yoga classes or something could be open to, say, 16-year-old and up. Will they come? Probably not. I mean, I remember being a teenager and I thought the idea of hanging out with old people was fantastic. But I was I was serious. I did not think that. I'm not just kidding. But having said that, making the offer there, and then maybe one or two kids will show up, that's fine. That enriches them, it doesn't complicate anything else. And so.
Let me ask you this, have we gotten any complaints about kids in that age span that wanted to
No,
take one
if
of the
we've
other?
Well,
had,
I'm
if we've
sure
had
they
a teenager who wants to enroll in one of, it's happened occasionally with the visual arts class offerings, and we simply make the exception and let them enroll. But you can count them on one hand
Sure.
on an annual
But
basis.
if they were not intimidated by the 18 plus, if it was 16 plus, you might get 3 more. No, I don't think it'd be much, but I think it's not a harm, there's no harm in trying.
Well, I think that you have to, it requires looking at the time of day,
Oh,
the
sure.
day of the week,
Absolutely.
and the minute that you try to move things out of the school day, they're not available at night, they're programmed at night, or they're studying at night.
Right.
And
No, but
on the weekends,
Most of them
they're,
would be, but if a few kind of,
I think the way we serve teens, in addition to taking programs to the schools, is by the offer of employment through the summer and the offer of employment through the lifeguards and the water safety instructors in the aquatics venue. It's a very tough nut to crack. And
what
the
happened?
most success we've achieved is by taking programs directly to them and serving them within the structure of the kinds of interests that they've already self-selected themselves into in terms of the arts and the sports or the extracurricular
What
clubs.
happened to the money we donated to the 2 turf fields?
I used it.
Yeah, yeah. Wasn't there a programming element that we were supposed to?
We
have?
would, if we wanted to exercise scheduling privileges on those fields, we could, but the demand isn't there for us to offer a sports curriculum. That niche is taken up by the leagues in the community. We have open, in terms of the strategic plan, the potential to explore the need for or the capacity for the community to engage with an intramural sports program for the non-varsity, non-junior varsity. We can continue to look at that. But what you will see in terms of the survey responses is the reality for people. Their lives are highly programmed and scheduled, and getting our content, getting our products to people is going to continue to be the challenge of our mission, is getting it, available to meet people where they live, where they can take advantage of it, where they already are physically located if they're children or if they're teens in school, and you know, it's not a simple, it's not a simple matter of content. Because there are many other factors that come into
Well,
play.
Lisa,
I just want to add to just listen to a lot, and as someone who actually several years ago temporarily worked with the youth here in the program. And you're talking quantitative, which is one thing. This is a qualitative matter, and RCC does go out in the community, and you need to meet teenagers or any where they are, and they're going to be in their school. They're going to hang out there before they're going to come here. If you want to research it before they, and the RCC, I don't have all the data, but they have researched in the past where you go and be there. They're out in Langston Hughes. They're in the high school, and it's a quality spot. We're also at Southgate. We do a lot of things. They offer where kids are, getting them moving around, just like everyone else. That's a very difficult thing. And so, I'm going to be very good here. When I read that letter, it's like it's very easy from looking from the outside to point fingers. But I think RCC really does a lot for this community, but particularly with this group that at that point they're breaking away from hanging out with other people. They want to be with their friends, and their high school is like a second home for many people. And so a lot of things happen, and literally, you have to change your standard, like, you know, RCC is all, you have to change what you're doing to meet people where they are. I taught religious ed once, I always had the classes at night, nobody came. I said, my kids are busy. I'll be willing to teach a class at 2:15, right when they're done, get them for the hour, get them out of there. My classes were packed. They were packed. It wasn't because of me, it's because it was a time frame. You actually get in there and they're done. And so that's what happens. So it's not just a number. It's not, you know, people retired, you have to have a lot of things for retired people, so it's different. So that number thing, but it's very easy from the outside looking in, and I think we are meeting the kids. I think it's not just a number thing, but I think the schools, at that time, from the time you're about 12 in junior high, up until you're 17, 18, you're gonna do more in your schools, and RC is involved. So, not that the letter has some key points to it, but I think there's an overarching theme there that I just disagree with. That's just my.
Can I just say, I mean, we could try a small change to the extent that there are courses that are outside of school hours that start at age 18. What's the harm in lowering the admission to 16? And that way we can find out, do we get a few students? Is there any demand at all? And so I understand that, of course, during the school day it's not going to happen at all. And after school, I don't expect much enrollment. But what's the harm in lowering it to 16 for things? Because my daughter was one who didn't always feel at home at the high school, and there were some things she would have wanted to try out that maybe weren't set at the high school. And there are kids like that.
I mean, we can certainly look at that, but I think given that population, we would probably have far greater success if we crafted content for them and offered it for them, as opposed to sort of a condescending kind of, you know, you can come to anything, you know, you can come to anything, but the content is, you can't, if you're teaching something, you're not going to teach the same way for 16 to 20-year-olds that you're going to teach for 20 to 40-year-olds, or then from 50 or 60-year-olds on up. I mean, teachers have to, especially for things like yoga and things that demand a certain kind of physical engagement, you know, it's going to be different depending on the age cohort that's involved. But we can explore it and test some options and some content and see.
I'd like to know a little more about what does go on in schools. How do you coordinate with schools for after-school programs, particularly the high school, but also the junior high school?
Well, at the high school, the programming we take to the high school is frequently not after school. It's frequently during school. It's frequently designed and delivered specifically for either a general school assembly, or for the music, or for the theater kids, or for the dance kids, depending on the artist and the content. So it's crafted as a you know, a kind of assembly or in-school program opportunity.
But couldn't that be expanded after school, doing the same kinds of programs that we offer here for adults, but for kids after school?
We can
enrichment
ask.
program,
We can
cooking, for instance. I used to cook when I was in high school, and I still do.
Just go right. South Lakes is.
Enrichment.
Yeah, we didn't explore it. I think it's.
South Lakes happens to be the culinary.
Ivy County capital.
It happens to have their, so they have their own chef.
Especially,
Yeah.
and they're
classes
known
for
for
that.
their arts,
And a lot of
especially
their
for arts.
kids are out catering events
All
around
over
that. in the
But we can,
evenings.
I can take it back to the program team, and we can certainly look at it and talk to Kim Retzer and explore the potential and see what the options might be.
Let me know if there's anything you want me to do, because I speak to her every month. If there's anything you want me to.
And I think you know, it's no small thing that we host the swim team here, and that's a sizable number of kids who participate. So it's not that we
It
don't
employs
serve
someone.
teens, and the program guide cannot and shouldn't be, because it will dilute the meaning of the program guide is the list of offerings for which people have to actually make a conscious decision to enroll. If it becomes more like an annual report and this is what we're doing kind of thing, I think it will lose some of the utility that it has as we have an annual report, and we can certainly focus content in it, and we can certainly focus our efforts toward this audience and see if there are some ways or content areas that people would be interested in.
Can you and staff present something at our January meeting on how we can meet?
I think that's a little short in terms of a reasoned response to,
Of course.
but,
So that it can be at least a kind of goal for us to think about. How can we serve teens? It's obviously not a new question.
But first, we have to find out if the teens want it. This was,
well, I would suggest a couple of things.
Yeah.
One is that, well, I can consult with the actual people who do this for a living, and that's always a good place to start. And then I think also it will be interesting to look at the survey results and to see where in that survey we see what the demand and what the potential areas of program development are. We have made very conscious efforts to program fitness and wellness classes, including yoga, Lori, for teens specifically designed for them, to zero to negligible enrollment nibbles. At times we've thought weekends or evenings that would be outside of their school calendar. That doesn't mean we don't ever try it again or figure out a way to offer it in the context of the school environment or some other structure. But it is not the case that people have not tried to address the teen audience or the high school audience. They are addressed in pretty creative ways to assure that they're reached on some level and served on some level. So we will keep doing that, and we will see what tweaks we can make to the language about enrollment so that we can suggest to people. And maybe it would be more attractive if we say, if you are between the ages of 14 and 18 and you're interested in these classes, please let us know, and we will make an exception to the age, and maybe that will be more compelling. And we used to have the age pegged at 12 or at 16 for a whole bunch of classes, and nobody that age enrolled in them. So I think that's a little bit of a kind of a too easy kind of solution to the problem, but maybe creating a sense of exceptionalism will address that kind of teen feeling of, I want to be special or something along those lines. But we can keep working on it. I don't believe that she or the perception she had was a really accurate perception of what this agency is doing to address kids across. It wasn't just the 13 to 17-year-olds she was concerned about. She had concerns from 0 on up to 17 and 18 that because we don't reflect everything that we're doing in the program guides. And so I think more and more as we do outreach and collaborative programming and off-site programming, we're going to be reaching a whole lot of people that we never necessarily spell out in the program guide are being reached.
Maybe we need to think about other ways, other than the program guide, to to get the word out.
What would you suggest? I just, you know, every, no, I need no
My gavel.
We can take this off screen and later, but I mean, every meet, the last 3 meetings, so you make suggestions, and so you and I can talk later about, but it's like, some, not that they're not realistic, but right now, there has to be a plan. That's why we have the annual meeting, and we talk about it, but it's not like this has not been done before. It's not like people are like, their first rodeo, whatever you want to call it, but there's a lot of planning and effort that goes into these programs, and I think that there's thought to that. So you say maybe we should.
And we can keep giving it thought, and we can keep looking at the opportunities to expand who we reach, and that's important.
Move we adjourn.
Sorry,
Is there any new business?
Well, that was the new business.
That was new business.
Yeah,
That was a new business.
Any old business?
Any old business?
No, we didn't care about old.
Didn't care.
We didn't care about that this week.
Yeah, there wasn't any old
But
business.
make sure you see all the reminders for the events at the bottom. Times and places.
I second your motion.
Is the board supposed to go to the RCC staff team building?
You're invited to it, you're welcome to attend it.
You're not required.
It's at
Okay.
the EXO building, the color changing building,
Yeah.
EXO.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
Not a favorite, but that's okay.
That's the one that's blue-green by Oracle. Right by Oracle.
Or the,
It's right on
no,
The ramp,
sorry
the
about
ramp.
the
Oracle Parkway.
Denny's.
Sunset Hills,
I think it's Oracle Parkway or something like that.
right by where?
You know where the 7-Eleven is, right by the
The color
WNOD?
building that changes color.
Right, at Old Reston Parkway, at Old Reston Avenue?
It's
Blue,
Across the
it's
street
orange,
there.
it's green.
They're blue-greens
Denny's got-
with the balconies that are like stuck on, and all sorts of random spots.
Feels like it'll fall off.
At one spot, it's the third bedroom, or that's
They've already done it. The meeting
It's already been done.
is
We're just waiting.
If we had it,
Gavel would be out of here. Gavel would be out of
we
here.
gavelled this thing down.